What's up, Sterile Processing Universe? It's Hank Balch here. You're watching Beyond Clean, and this series is called Fighting Dirty. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about communication as a skill set that's critical in sterile processing. But before we get into how to communicate, I would like to ask you to do me a favor. If you're not already subscribed to our channel here on YouTube, give it a nice little hit today on your computer screen. Subscribe, and in particular, hit the bell, that little alarm bell looking thing. We'd love for you to hit that bell, because what that does is that'll notify you anytime we drop a brand new video, so you can be the first in your department to check it out and tell all your friends, hey, did you see that conversation today about communication? Or did you see that conversation and that panel discussion about chemistries, about water quality? You name it, you want to be the first to hear about it, and that's how you do it, by hitting that bell on our YouTube page. Okay, let's get into communication as a skill set in sterile processing. This may be a surprise to some of you. If you think about your job mainly as a manufacturing type job, you clock in, you go to your table and you start assembling trays, right? What does communication have to do? You're not talking to your instruments, right? Unless you're just in love with that Mayo scissor and you want to kind of serenade it before you put it in the tray. There's not a lot of communication going on. Even in the decontamination space, right? You got your full PPE, it's loud, you got all these buzzards going out, you got the buzzing of the ultrasonic, you got the water going, you've got the dumbwaiter or the door opening, all kinds of noises going back there. There's not a lot of talking and communication going on. So why, knowing all this, is communication such a critical skill set for that excellent sterile processing tech? Well, it's because we do have a lot of teammates in sterile processing, and we got a lot of customers on the back end of our sterile processing workflow. All these instruments and trays are going to the operating room, or many times they're going outside of the hospital to clinics, the doctor's office, to the ER. Maybe they're going downstairs or upstairs, depending on where you are, to the emergency room. And all of these people need information about our process. When are the trays going to be ready? How do I make a change to my instrument tray? What happens if I lose an instrument? What happens if an instrument breaks? How do you communicate back and forth, in particular in high-stress situations? Because let's just be honest, especially with the operating room and the ER, these nurses and these surgeons and physicians, they got a lot going on. There's a lot of stress. This is many times life and death, and now they got to communicate quickly and effectively with us, who we got a lot going on too. We got hundreds and thousands of instruments coming through our workflows, and we got to be really specific about what it is they're asking and what it is they're wanting, and if we can do it now or how much longer it's going to take to get them what they're asking for. So communication is very, very important. Now, not everyone is born a natural communicator, but many things about communication can be taught in that orientation and onboarding. Number one, I think the most important, is to try. Try to communicate. Be willing to ask questions, to understand one another, and be willing to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. Not everyone signed up to be in a high-stress situation. I get that. But when the stress comes and when those phone calls come, you got to be willing to step up, because remember, at the end of the day, you're supporting the patient, and they're the ones that need you the most, and they're the ones that are counting on your ability to communicate, to get them the tools and the instruments they need for their procedure. So very, very important to try. Number two, I would say it's important to just be polite. Mamas and daddies, they taught us from a very young age to be polite with how we communicate. If you can't say anything good, don't say anything at all. Right? Well, in sterile processing, sometimes you still got to communicate, even if you can't say anything good. But you can still do it in a way that is polite, is kind to your coworkers, to your customers in the operating room. Even if they're stressed or maybe they're frustrated and angry, doesn't mean that we have to return that type of frustration and anger. The more professional and polite we can be, the better all those engagements would be all the way around. The last piece I'll say just about the communication skill set is be willing to improve. Like I said before, we don't all start out, we're not born natural great communicators. Knowing that about yourself and knowing that about everybody, it's okay to get better over time. So be willing to receive and listen to feedback from your customers and from your coworkers as well as your bosses. Now, not everyone's going to be good at giving that kind of feedback in a way that's all kind of soft and fluffy and encouraging. It's not always going to be constructive feedback the way that we want it, but be aware of, and anytime that you can glean that kind of feedback, if after this situation people will walk away and maybe they're not as mad as they were when they started talking to you, that's a win. And that's feedback. Even their facial expressions or their reaction, that's feedback that you can be learning through your entire career and saying, whatever I said there, that seemed to work. Or if the opposite happens and they're more angry when they leave and when they get done talking to you than they were before, that's the feedback where you should say, well, maybe the way I handled that was not the best way to handle that. Go back and the next time, try to handle it a little bit differently. Continue to experiment in your communication styles and until you start getting that kind of feedback that's positive. That is a very quick introduction to communication as a skill set in sterile processing. I hope this video encouraged some of you out there who maybe are more in kind of that introvert camp who feels like, I didn't sign up for this job to communicate. To just know, well, yeah, you kind of did. You may not have knew it coming in, but in SPD, to be an excellent tech, you've got to learn how to communicate. And even if you're an extrovert, you still need to be able to be aware of how your communication is being received. And so really pay attention to those feedback cues. And then learn and improve over time. All right, that's going to do it for our communication episode and intro. Thank you for all that you do out there fighting dirty each and every day, and we'll talk to you again soon.
She's at her happiest at the SPD. Only wish she was as happy when she is with me. I want to be her everything, 'cause to me she's heaven sent. But it seems I'm playing second fiddle to sterile instruments. Sonic irrigators and ultrasonic cleaners are things that matter much to her. They sweeten her demeanor. I'm a runner-up to prep and pack, and I'm starting to feel down, chasing the lady who wears that triple crown. Yeah, I'm playing second fiddle to sterile instruments. Her passion is for decontamination. If I could only change things and get her to see sense, but I'm playing second fiddle to sterile instruments. Well, I've tried to embrace the process, but it leaves me cold. I think sterile is as sterile does, if the truth be told. When I go to hug and kiss her, she sometimes makes a scene, and she won't let me near her till I'm mechanically clean. Yeah, I'm playing second fiddle to sterile but I